Okay, we're back at normal psychology students, and we're going to talk about a pretty serious topic. All the topics we talk about are serious, but this one especially because it's so final is suicide, chapter 8. Suicide, or even suicide attempts, but certainly successful suicide, leaves us with a feeling of confusion. There's mixed emotions, anger, sadness. The confusion part is why. It's so final. We don't get a chance to reach out to the person. Very small percentage of individuals actually leave notes. There usually are indications of what's going to happen, but we live pretty busy lives. We have a lot of things in our mind, and so we overlook a lot of things. Of course, suicide is the intentional, direct, and conscious taking of one's own life. It's my personal belief that 98% of us think about suicide, whether in a passing moment or give it some serious consideration, at least once in our life. And the other 2% are probably lying about it. In other words, it's common when we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling kind of down, it's common to just kind of reflect and think, I wonder what life would be like if I wasn't around. Would anybody miss me? Would people storm my office and immediately claim things as theirs or the space itself? To actually planning out a suicide, right? Thinking that there's no hope. The red area deals with ideation, and the red, and the gray area deals with actual attempts. And as you can see, some of the reasons that people give for either thinking about red or attempting suicide, gray, are loneliness, hopelessness, general depression, partner issues, a feeling of helplessness, grade issues, parent issues, money issues. Unfortunately, a lot of my students are kind of going through all this stuff all the time. So what keeps one person from even thinking about suicide or attempting suicide, and another person just kind of going about their business? Well, a lot has to do with hope. Do we have something to look forward to? I try to have something to look forward to every day, whether it's my walkabout in the neighborhood, whether it's getting bitten by my puppy in the back of my body gently, hopefully, whether it's an old DVD or Blu-ray I haven't watched in a long time and happens to be one of my favorite movies. Now, there's other things that get in the way. You know, we've got household chores, appointments, doctor's visits, homework, work obligations. But there always has to be something that we can look forward to. And I'm trying to make it my effort that there's something good in every one of my days. You start to realize how important days are as you get older, because you don't feel like you have an infinite amount of days. Now, some of the risk factors involved with suicide, drug and alcohol abuse. Sometimes if we're not really aware of what we're doing, that kind of frees us up to do some ridiculous things. A prior suicide attempt, if at first you don't succeed, try again, right? Many people are not always successful because we don't really know exactly how many pills to take, how far to cut, how to make a knot to hang ourselves. Unfortunately, the internet is full of advice to how to successfully suicide. That's the power of free speech, right? Depression or other mood disorders, helplessness. Now, again, a lot of times people don't really want to die. They just want the pain to go away. Antisocial or aggressive behavior. Family history of suicide. we sometimes think, oh my God, suicide is genetic. It's passed down from one generation to the other. Suicide itself is not passed down from one person to the other. Depression is, right? Shame, humiliation, the final straw. Just can't take one more thing, right? And the availability of a firearm. Now, when it comes to gender, who wins? Men versus women, who wins? Depends on how you define winning, right? Women attempt suicide more. Men are more successful. Should we high five, fellas? No. Why are men more successful than women in attempts? Well, the last factor plays a role. If men use a firearm or they attempt to hang themselves, their chances of success are a lot higher than if they take pills or slit their wrists or use other methods of lethality. It doesn't mean that women don't use firearms or hang themselves. It just means that men are more likely to use more lethal methods. Warning signs, potential suicide. Check these out. Suddenly withdrawing with activities from others. If every weekend, at least in the past, we would get together and go see a movie, right? Whether it's a Marvel movie, whether I'm in it or not, or an actor playing me. And the last few weekends, I've made excuses. And you know how much I love movies. Something's up, right? Mood swings. You might see me depressed, and you think, oh my gosh, that guy seems suicidal. And then all of a sudden I'm happy. Guess what? I'm still suicidal. Why am I happy now when I should be depressed? I made a decision to kill myself, and now that burden doesn't have to weigh on me. Yeah. Recent occurrence, life crisis, emotional shock. That happens all the time. We're constantly having crises in our life these days. Personality changes, gift giving based on prized possessions. If I see you and I say, you know what, here's all my Spidey gear, I'm not going to need it where I'm going. Where I'm going, I'll just need some marshmallows. You should be concerned. Why would I give up my costume? Right. Depression, aggression, or risk taking. Some people don't necessarily have a firearm, but what they do is they have what's known as death by cop or suicide by cop. In other words, I'll put myself in a position where I know the police are going to shoot me. And so I'll go up to them and I'll be driving erratically and they'll be chasing me and I'll pull my car over and they jump out with their guns drawn and I run towards them like this. I'm running towards them and they have really no idea what's in my hand. So they shoot me multiple times and they find out it's ink pen number 664 and they've just killed me, right? So in other words, I've committed suicide, but I got somebody to do it for me, so to speak, right? Preoccupation with death. I'm always talking about dying or suicide. A direct threat. You know, we think about the boy who cried wolf and we think, oh, he's just talking. He's not going to commit suicide. Because, you know, people who talk, they just want attention. Right? If you remember the story, the boy who cried wolf, he kept on crying wolf, and there was no wolf, and all the village people came to his assistance. And then when the wolf finally did come and he cried wolf, nobody came to help him. Take it seriously. Sometimes we'll have a friend that says, promise me you won't tell anybody. I'm going to kill myself. I value friendships. I value promises. I would break it. I'd break my promise and let somebody know. That person might hate me for the rest of their lives. I might lose a really good friend. Or maybe later they might come to me and thank me and says, you know what? Thanks for breaking the promise because I'm here alive to talk about it. So as I mentioned, females have a higher rate of attempts. Men are more successful in their attempts. Now the question is, well, why would females attempt more? And we've addressed this issue in the past. Pressures that are placed on females in our society, the exploitation that occurs with females is quite different than the pressures and the exploitation that's done towards men. It doesn't mean that both are not pressured in our society. They're different methods. Men have avenues of releasing some of that pent-up pressure. Women don't always have that opportunity. It's the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. So why would this happy-go-lucky child later commit suicide as an adult or as a young person? And by the way, kids can kill themselves too. We just assume this is an avenue for adults. It's a very complicated question. If we look back on the psychological autopsy, we see a series of events. I think of Robin Williams, the comedian and actor. I really enjoyed him in the movie Awakenings, playing Dr. Oliver Sacks. And I just think, what would lead him to the point where he just felt, I need to end it all? And I believe, I don't know, but I believe that with his degenerative illness that he was going through, he just figured there's no hope. So why even bother being on this planet? About 1 million adults attempt suicide every year. 1 out of 25 attempts. We don't always succeed, but you better believe that we learn from our lessons, right? We'll figure out the next time how to be more successful. So take action. Get involved. Don't let a person give you all kinds of hints, commit suicide, and then you have to live with the grief. I kind of knew what was going to happen, and I did nothing. So that leads me to my case study, and it's called Papa in the Garage. It takes place where I worked in private practice. It's a mouthful, so I had to write it out. I was working in Lansing, Michigan, in private practice called PPRS, and PPRS stands for Professional Psychological and Rehabilitational Services. We generally told people PPRS, right, because it's just too long to fit on the business card, stationery, as well as telling people the name. In private practice, I had a certain set of appointments and certain evenings after I was done teaching. And I went for my appointment, and usually people got there early and filled out the paperwork and indicated what their issue was. And I was going to see a mother and a son. Son was approximately 6 years old. And they had marked down recent loss of father of the son. Next to it, they wrote down suicide. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, oh boy, this is going to be a tough case. I'd like to tell you about it for the next video. Thank you.